gentlemen of the world, you must check out the NoSpoon podcast. Lots of people listen to it. Almost everybody listens to it. Hey, excuse me, that's what people tell me. And frankly, not a big pork guy. So it works. It works great. It works well. Probably the best anything ever works, if you ask me. So check it out.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to No Spoon Episode 1. My name is Dale Upright.
My name is John, and today some of the topics we're going to be covering range from the speakership, some of the stuff going on with the war in Israel and Palestine, some of the funny stories going out of New York City, and some human trafficking stings. All right, so first topic we wanted to really touch on was a lot of the stuff going on with the speakership, with McCarthy getting ousted here. Anything specific you wanted to touch on when it came to this?
Well, so it seems like it's definitely leaning towards Scalise. The two main options were Jim Jordan and Scalise. It kind of, from everything going on in the news and social media, it sounds like Scalise has pretty much got it in the bag. I would say, just my opinion is that either one of those options is going to be way better than McCarthy. So I personally don't know as much about Scalise as I do Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan's had a lot more time in the media. I've seen a lot more of him, and he's been pretty on point with most of his viewpoints, I would say. So I think if people like Matt Gaetz are getting behind Scalise as well, he's got to be pretty good. Like I said, I don't know as much about him. I like Jim Jordan. That's who I would vote for. But I'm pretty excited that either one's going to be way better than McCarthy. I don't know how he got the speakership in the first place, and personally, I think people like.
Well, oddly enough, Trump backed him.
Right,
and that's how he got it. Yeah, 100%.
I was just gonna say, I think I know MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Marjorie Taylor Greene,
whatever it is, MTG, I like it.
MTG, she backed him, and that surprised a lot of people because she's always been labeled the far right, which for a conservative voter, that's the base. Like a Trump voter, they're labeled as far right. And people like McCarthy.
The window's just gone so far left that if you're just like middle right now, you seem far right compared to, the
right,
left
and people
nowadays.
People like Dan Crenshaw or Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell. To us, to the Trump base, those are basically liberals, So
warmongering liberals, yeah.
Right, Rhino, hawkish, neocon, liberal, uniparty is what I like 100%. To call them. So that surprised a lot of people that she backed him, and it surprised a lot of people that Trump backed him. So, but obviously he didn't keep his end of the bargain. He said he was going to make a lot of compromises, and still no J6 footage, still no January 6 footage.
Yeah.
They allowed some lawyers to look at it, but they didn't release it to the public, and that's
some
shady.
Reporters too, right? Supposedly.
Yeah, but that's just shady because then people can just pick and choose. Oh, we'll edit this and we'll let people see this. No, we the people want to see all of the footage, so we can see what you're hiding.
Yeah, how many undercover agents did you have working that day, and how many of them actually started most of? Allegedly. Started most of the stuff that happened that day, and then you try to blame it on normal civilians that were just there.
Right, and when you just give it to media people or lawyers, they're just gonna, like I said, they're just gonna pick it apart and show you what they want you to see. They're gonna show you a narrative.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure Scalise has it in the bag yet. I don't know exactly how many Democrats are gonna cross, what the votes will be when it comes to that. But from what I've heard, there's at least 20 Republicans that are either against or haven't necessarily decided to vote for him yet. So I don't think he quite has it in the bag yet. But it does look like he is the forerunner. I think it's also weird that they did a closed door vote.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
the wrong instead of closed door vote. Bunch of cowards.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good segue into. I know we wanted to talk about the possibility of
Possibility
Trump being the
possibility of
speaker too.
this actually
Yeah,
coming to pass. If meme magic is real and this happens, I will be forever grateful. But
I think
yeah,
a lot of people would.
yeah, no, 100%. Like that's a good point. The a lot of the Twitter polls, I know they can be biased and have only one group of people, depending on who shares it and whatnot, vote in it. But there were four options. It was Scalise, Jordan, Trump, and other. And Trump was getting 90% of the vote on an 80,000 person voting poll. So it really does look like at least the majority of Republicans who are active on social media would really like to see the former president, future president, become
Right.
speaker for a little bit. I
That's
think it would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is I think if he really went for it, I think he would have it in the bag, no question about it. I know that he's up in the polls on Biden for 2024 for presidential. So I'm not 100% convinced that I know he said in some videos that he would do whatever it would take to unify the Republican Party, which like you had mentioned, he was the one that backed McCarthy. So
Yeah.
he's probably getting a little bit of heat, and so maybe that's why he said that. If he tried to get the speakership, he would have it in the bag, no question about it.
And there
So
was that thing he posted on Truth of him holding the gavel. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he is just an absolute
He's a,
awesome troll. So it could
he's a
just be
good
him
memer.
trolling. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's a
great
good memer
memer.
himself.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a meme, but yeah, I think if he's interested, the people would be very interested in seeing him in any role. We can honestly probably get him in at this point.
Yep. I think the conservative base would like to see that, no question about it.
I agree.
So hopefully, I mean, like I said, whether it's Trump, Scalise, or Jim Jordan, I think we can all look forward to somebody better than McCarthy.
Yeah, hopefully. And then I think moving on to another thing that kind of tangential to Trump, I kind of wanted to get your take on what he says here about the current goings on over in the Middle.
The prime
Oh
minister
yeah.
I would have thought
distracted?
their intelligence would have been able to pick this up. Thousands of people were involved. Thousands of people knew about it, and they let this slip by. That was not a good thing for him or for anybody.
And when he says him, he means Prime Minister Netanyahu. He was not prepared for this, caught blindsided, and it's hard for me to believe with the reputation of their intelligence services.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to kind of get your take on that. What you think about Trump saying that Netanyahu and intelligence.
Well, that's the question that's on everybody's mind when it comes to what's going on, in the Gaza Strip and with Israel and Hamas. And basically, everyone wants to know how a bunch of people on paragliders were able to get past the number one intelligence agency in the world. A lot of people would say, I've heard people from American intelligence
All the
agency,
three
CIA, FBI. Yeah, they all say Mossad and the IDF are top notch. And so you've got people on paragliders that are
Like, not to make
invading.
light of the situation, but I saw the Fortnite meme. Like, they Fortnited in. Like,
They
that's,
did. It really looked
it's
like they
kind
were.
of wild.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think it underscores basically, it was either an absolute, botch on the intelligence of Mossad, and it could be that, as well as the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare, even in the year 2023.
Yes.
The Democrat talking point for how long, and I've heard Biden say it, is, oh, well, you think your AR-15 is going to go up against the
government.
United States military. No, you need fighter jets, you need this and that. Well, look at what Hamas just did to Mossad and the IDF, okay?
Yeah.
Again, that's not to make light of the situation or any
At
of the
all.
suffering that people are dealing with, but I mean, what gives here,
Well, yeah, and they're also arming their citizens now. They're loosening the rules to make sure everybody can have weapons. So it's like,
Maybe
I
we
think
should
as
do that.
Americans,
Maybe
we really need to hold on to the right to continue bearing arms and not let the government take that away from us so that they can retroactively give it back when we need it. It's like, well, if we would already had it, things would probably turned out a lot better than you giving it back to us after a massacre.
And if we gave the government our guns, they would just end up sending it over to Hezbollah or Hamas or Ukraine or
Yeah,
to
'cause
some
from the videos, it looked
foreign,
like they had American M4s, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, from some caliphate across the seas. So why would we give up our guns?
No, 100%. And then tangentially, that goes into Tucker's video. I also wanted to show you this over here on Tucker's.
So there's a lot at stake in how we
This is,
encourage
from
Israel
Colin
to
Rose.
respond to the horrifying Hamas attacks. Wisdom and long-term thinking are essential, but you will not be surprised to learn that is not what we are getting. Watch this person, for example, who happens to be the media's pick for President of the United States.
This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around.
Okay. First off, I just got to stop right there. Just because, like, someone hates you just as much as someone else they attack, that does not mean it's attack on, like, this isn't some kind of, like, math where there's, like, some kind of property where we're pulled into the equation just because they hate us as well. That's just silly.
Yeah. One of the things I love about Donald Trump was his foreign policies, and he understood, just like the liberals back 20 years ago when Bush was in office, that war is not something that we should ever want to get into. And just like other countries, citizens from other countries will say, man, we hate America. They don't mean the American citizens.
Yeah, they don't mean like
government.
us. Like me.
They don't mean
they're talking
us.
about the crap our government's done to those poor countries for generations now.
And a lot of us feel the same exact way.
Yeah, we're not, just to be clear, we're also not a huge fan of most of the crap that they do. Like, we're not on board, and we can't.
Right.
Yeah, so we feel for you, other countries out there that have been screwed by the war machine that is our government at the moment.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
continuing.
One thing I would say is anytime you're watching any mainstream news source, even if it's Fox News, if you are a conservative and you watch Fox News, I used to watch Tucker, Greg Gutfield every now and then, it's funny, but I would say come at it with an extreme scrutiny and suspicion that they are feeding you a narrative. And
With
Nikki
the
Haley
war, you
is
mean?
Yeah. Well, with anything, with every single subject that they are putting out there, and especially the war. I mean, let's watch, Sean Hannity, Lindsey Graham, they're putting out a narrative. They're trying to get an emotional response. So they're going to show you the things that they think are going to make you respond emotionally.
Yes. No, I agree with that 1,000%.
I
always get it. Like, I'm kind of used to it from the right, the warmongering right. But it's really weird in today's day and age that it really seems like the left is just as bloodthirsty. And I think that might be one of the things that brings, like, the American people together, and we look around and go, what are these people this 30-year-old ex-bartender wants to send us to, like, these people are trying to send your kids to war, and, like, Lindsey Graham doesn't have kids is one of the topics that'll come up here in this Tucker video that we'll watch. But yeah, it's like all these people without kids and no real stake because they're super old and have already sucked the teat dry want to send our kids in this generation to war over stuff that
there's got to be, their pockets are getting padded by any of the foreign policies that they're promoting, whether it's let's back this group. It's because they know people.
Yeah, or what board am I going to be on when I retire? What company am I going to go work for? Which of these defense companies am I going to go work for?
Exactly.
That's one of the things we truly need to change. I don't think any of these people should be able to lobby after they're done. Shouldn't be able to, like, it's just silly. Like, if you can't tell that this is corruption, bribery, and plain out there, it's kind of a lot of stuff going on in the current government.
Right.
Yeah, I'll play a little bit more of this.
Making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's
emotional
why
response.
Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
This was an attack on America, she says, when in fact it was not. And for that reason, we must, quote, finish Iran, a nation of nearly 90 million people. What are we watching here? This is not sober leadership. She's a child, and this is the tantrum of a child, ignorant, cocksure, bloodthirsty. Yet no one in Washington scolded her for it. In fact, they aped her hysteria. Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
What exactly would happen to the United States if we declared war on Iran and started blowing up their infrastructure? Lindsey Graham has no clue what would happen. He hasn't thought it through. He's almost 70 years old and he has no children. He doesn't care. But neither, amazingly, do most of his colleagues in Washington. They're as reckless as he is. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw took to social media to call for what he described as a war to end all wars, as if there is such a thing. But of course, there isn't such a thing. Wars beget more war. The bigger the conflict, the uglier and longer lasting the consequences. See World War I for details.
Yeah, I love Tucker's take on Nikki Haley. She's extremely off-putting, but calling her a child, and like I said, it's just an emotional response. There's no logical, thought process going on there. It's just
I totally get the emotion, but like Tucker said, the war only begets more war. So okay, let's just say you get your wish and you get to do what you want, and you go on a rampage and you're just killing thousands of people from whatever to sea that they, or what river to bank or whatever they keep saying. That happens. Then what happens? There's all these other countries that are surrounding you that are extremely, extremely pissed off now. They're not going to take that well. And then, so what's going to happen? Then they're going to try to get retribution. And I get the emotional reaction because I'm sure I'd feel the same exact way if it had happened in my country.
But that's the thing. Is it didn't.
It didn't.
No,
and we're already subsidizing one war.
Yeah.
How many can we how many countries can we sub? We're already paying for the Iron Dome. We're already paying for that war.
Right. Yeah, and
most of NATO.
We gave Iran $6 billion in assets
a week ago.
Right. So right now we are, we're basically funding both sides of the war. Again, how many times has that happened in United States history?
I think every time. If I'm being honest.
That's why so many Trump conservatives were supporters of Donald Trump, was because as far back as I can remember, certainly as long as I've been alive, he's been the only conservative politician to not want to get us into a bunch of wars, other than Ron Paul.
Yep, I was going to say Ron Paul. And that's why I really before Trump came in on 2016, or I guess maybe it wasn't before he came in, but before I was taking him 100% seriously, I wanted Rand Paul. I don't know if he would have the backbone to do necessarily what I wanted him to do, and I'm really glad Trump got it and proved he did. So I'm really glad with how things turned out, but I really like the Pauls for that exact reason. It's not really up to the U.S. to be the world police, and it doesn't make anyone happy that we are.
And that's how the founding fathers intended it. They intended us to not get involved in foreign affairs. So there was a reason that they wrote that in their letters back and forth.
And it's
How
a
can
lot
you be
easier to not do that when you're energy independent, which we're not.
How can you be
on the
right?
cusp
And
of being.
how can you be America first when you are constantly going out and defending, Nikki Haley would put it as your friends, right? Well, what about American citizens? Aren't they your friends? When you're going out and spending all of your resources and all of your time and the lives of our military, like imagine if our military was down at the southern border, keeping people from coming into this country illegally,
Oh, please.
and
Don't get me
doing
too
all the,
excited here.
yeah. And so, it's like, those are the American people should be Nikki Haley's friends and our public officials' friends. And those are the people that we should be protecting and defending.
Yeah, and
primarily.
100%
That's
my
not
heart.
to say,
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, it's not to say that you can't ever get involved, but it should be a last resort. And it should be when you have a surplus, when there aren't, how many veterans a day committing suicide because they have no help. It should be when things are good, when times are good, when your citizens, when your friends are
Our borders are wide
doing
open.
okay.
You can't tell me that none of these people have come into our country.
We're being invaded right now, and how many of those people are Hamas?
Yes.
How many of those people are Hezbollah?
We don't know because we're
don't know.
We're just like, hey, here's your money, come on in.
Come on in. Right.
And then if you're from here and you're broke and going through rough times, it's your SOL. Sorry, we got people coming in. We need their votes. We've already got yours.
Yep.
So, but the funny
100%.
thing about that, which we'll get to later, is some of those repercussions that are coming along with these decisions, like Biden's border wall. Here, this is a great headline. Biden says border walls don't work. His administration bypasses laws to build more barriers in South Texas. That is in a beautiful freaking headline.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I don't really think you have to do much more than just read the headline at this point. Like, things are getting so bad in these sanctuary cities. It's really easy to be a sanctuary city when you don't have to provide any sanctuary city because you just pass the bud on to Texas and you're just like, hey buds, they're living here, they like it here, it's warm, they've got family here, so they're just gonna stay here. But as much as I don't like it that they're getting sent all across the country, it's really funny how much of a U-turn all these sanctuary cities have made as soon as they actually have to provide sanctuary and the money that comes with providing sanctuary.
Right. Yeah, Eric Adams has publicly said multiple times that they can't take it. I know there's the I think Governor Hochul, I forget who the other lady was. But like you said, a bunch of people are making complete 180s. But as far as that headline and that story goes, one thing I wanted to point out is, what does it say? 26 or 27 different laws. 26 laws. So where did those laws come from? Like, why?
If I'm not mistaken, let me browse through here. If I'm not mistaken, it's Clean Water and Clean Air Act. Like, I don't know, because you're going to be using a bulldozer and it's going to be puff and smoke. That goes against the Clean Air Act. And you're going to be making dirt, which will get runoff and rainwater, and that's against Clean Water Act. It's like, you're not allowed to do anything now without some stupid kind of building permit that's approved by the government, who can't even build our roads very well and can't really do anything administratively well. So why we allow them to be in charge of more than tying their own shoes and figuring out how to get off stages, I will never know.
Yeah.
Like what? They're supposed to be in charge of what? Printing money, which they pass the buck on that to the Fed, which that's one thing
privately
we can have
owned.
a long episode on.
Yeah,
What's the other thing that they're supposed to do?
I think they're supposed to defend our borders.
Oh. Okay, so the two things that they're supposed to do is secure border, protecting the United States citizens. They're not doing. I mean, they're trying to do that now as a repercussion to all the cities and places that they've been sending them are falling apart because they're running out of money already. It's been like, what, 2 years.
Right.
Rookies.
No, they think that their time is better spent mandating what kind of vaccines that you and your children take.
Yeah, my body, my choice until, you know, I get a little scared. And then it's my choice in your body.
Yeah, or everybody starts dying suddenly.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And you know,
That's
I'm the
another thing we
conspiracy
could do an
theorist for
episode on.
for just asking questions, but the federal government's going to mandate it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, which they're facing lots of lawsuits, and they seem to be losing most of them. And all these hospitals that tried to mandate nurses, praying for them to come back.
OSHA got grilled. They got their whole position struck down, and then they were
because they can't tell you what to do.
Right. And then they got the I don't know, the director or whoever heads OSHA got grilled in front of Congress basically for saying, well, we're going to try and do it anyway, even though we got struck down in court. We're gonna do what we can to pressure employers to force their employees to take the vaccine.
But we're the fascists.
I wonder if they're getting any kickbacks from Pfizer and Moderna. I wonder.
Sponsored. Yeah. OSHA Law brought to you by Pfizer. Okay, and then that actually, the whole talking about Hochul and Adams, that goes really well into this next story about them seeking to suspend right to shelter. And if I'm not mistaken here, that's where people are allowed to just be like, yo, I'm chilling here. If I'm not mistaken, the right to shelter, like homeless people are just allowed to be like, here, this is my territory, or go into houses and stuff like that, and you're not really allowed to like get rid of them because they have this right to shelter. And that works perfectly fine in New York City, I guess, until you get flooded with almost 150,000 people. From what I'm reading, they're running out of hotels.
Yeah, 120 plus migrants. And Eric Adams says they are at capacity. They can't take any more.
No mas.
And it was less than a year ago that he had claimed that they were proud to house the asylum seekers. And
proud to be a sanctuary city.
Vowed to continue. So, like you said, just having to actually face the strain on resources and the backlash from actual citizens and residents there who are like, hey, this is making our neighborhoods unsafe for our children. These people, first of all, we have no idea if the health issues that they have, regardless of what kind of people.
Bro, there's going to be. I'm calling it now. There's going to be a resurgence. I mean, I've already read of cases, but it's not as widespread. But I also I don't trust these statistical people anymore. Even if there was a big outbreak, I don't think they tell us because they're not here for our best. They're not here looking out. I don't think anyone is. You got to protect yourself and look into stuff yourself because.
Right, and that's just on the health side as far as like any kind of diseases that they might have. That's not even considering like when you don't screen, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that are coming into your country. Do you really think that you don't have bad actors and people who are coming to do you harm? I think we had talked about before the episode. I think we had said something about they had already flagged in like the last week or so. They already flagged something like 120. Yeah,
I think it was 100. I could be wrong on that, but from what I remember, I think it was 150 people that were on the watch list already.
Right, and I'm sure that is a super conservative estimate.
Oh, probably.
There's got to be thousands and thousands of terrorists in our country now because we just have a wide open border and a welfare system when they get here.
Yeah, better than what most Americans are making. So we're and this is one of the things that kind of peeves me off is that we always have this $20 minimum wage and not even going into repercussions of that or paying off student loans or the repercussion of that, but we've sent so much money to all these other countries that we could have really had all these kind of things that we're talking about, but we're just using that money for war and filling Congress's bank account. It really seems like at this point.
Yeah. I always believed in so many conservatives are super against the idea excuse me, they're super against the idea of free healthcare. But if you think about it, if we closed our borders and if we stopped sending so much money in foreign aid to other countries and we actually paid off our 30 some trillion dollars in debt, I'm sure that we could afford to, at least if not, if not have free healthcare, you could at least subsidize it, and you could
Well, here's my question. Getting into that. So, like, the taxpayer paid, like, we
funded all the research for Moderna, Pfizer.
not saying
you're
it was
telling
good
us-
research or that it did any good for any of us, but we literally paid for this, and then they raked in billions of dollars.
Right.
What?
And that's just one example. That's just for like the vaccine is what we, Moderna and
Yeah,
Pfizer.
taxpayers
But
pay for the road, then the state collects tax on it, and then they tax us again to ride on the road.
right,
We're
it's like
double
we're paying
dipping.
taxes.
Yeah, we're
so they
double
can tax
dipping
us.
somewhere here along the lines. Like,
Right.
we literally threw a tea party over 3% tea tax, and now they're taking 30% flat out of my tax and then charging me to buy tea again. Like, I'm ready to throw it in the ocean.
Yeah, I think the founding fathers would be a little bit upset. There again,
Bro.
the phrase "America first" rings so true. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like if we shut the border down, if we stop just taking in everybody, if we stop sending so much money in foreign aid, and if we actually put the American citizen first, I think it would be amazing the things that we could do and the ways that we could improve the lives of the American citizen.
It would be. And then I think that kind of goes into the next one here that we were talking about. I don't know if you saw that. I think it was the leader of Iran called for National Day of Jihad for Friday the 13th, and now it seems like here, New York City's calling in. I think from what I read, everyone is being called in. All the police officers are being called in for like at least be on alert for that day, for the National Day of Jihad, which is what, literally in a couple minutes here. About an hour and 17 minutes, the day begins.
Yeah, and the timing on that, as far as what's going on in Israel, and then the leader of Hamas, you said, made that announcement. Khaled Mashal, I think is his name. I have a bad feeling about that. I hate to be pessimistic, and hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully there's nothing bad, no big, I don't want to make it like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but let's just say hopefully nothing crazy happens tomorrow.
Agreed.
Well,
better be safe than sorry. I'd rather be prepared than not. So just a heads up on that.
Right, definitely.
And then one of the things happening domestically is, I haven't heard it quite as much since Trump has left office, but it does look like there was two pretty big human trafficking stings here lately. The one here was in Ohio. If I'm not mistaken, this one here was called Operation Buyer's Remorse, where they arrested over 160 and identified more than 100 human trafficking survivors.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think when I read the story, it looked like it was either this one or the one that was in Florida, but it looked like there were multiple like public educators that were involved. Isn't that right?
I want to say it was both places had public educators, and then the Florida one, which I'll show here, from the Gateway Pundit here, 219, 3 were Disney workers and a school athletic director. So I think this is a great shout out for why, you might want to look into homeschooling.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a homeschool alumni, as a former homeschooler myself, I would say if you have children, I would definitely. I mean, the public school system is broken, and it has been for an extremely long time. And even Donald Trump recently said in Iowa, I think it was, that he wants to completely tear down the Department of Education, and it's not because we don't want to have standards of
No,
educating
just
our children.
standards have
It's
gone
because
down
the
since they've been
standard
implemented.
it's because the standards are so low and our public education system is so broken.
Yeah, we
and
pay
you're
like
way
the
better.
most in the world per student, and we're like 17th. I'm completely wrong on that number, but we're not in the
Well,
top.
when you look at the funding, okay, and that's a great example. When you look at where the funding for education is going, all the places where we're dumping the most money, and this is excluding, college level, university level. When I'm talking about where we're dumping the most amount of money is where people have the most terrible test scores, where you might have 5% of kids that are proficient in math or
Baltimore,
reading.
dude. Yeah, you're quoting that story perfectly. I think they said 5% of students were in the entire state were
That's mind
proficient in
blowing.
math.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. That is unacceptable.
That's
I
1
mean,
in
that's
20.
laughable. That's laughable.
Bro, that's a critical role in Dungeons and Dragons. You have you have the same chance of rolling a crit than finding a student that can do math. Plus, none of them can read clocks.
Those aren't good odds,
Yeah, they're not good odds. That's what makes the game fun. That's why crits are awesome. So yeah, anything else you kind of wanted to touch on while we're going? Anything popped up?
No, I mean, I would just say to anybody out there, or I would say, thank you guys for watching. This was the first episode. Bear with us as we struggle through this, and I'd like to see you guys next time and sign off.